I would just like to say, I know that I'm supposed to put water in this, so it looks like I'm drinking blood. There is a nice coffee in it. Please ignore. Hey guys, what's up? It's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, and if you've come back, thanks so much. Today, you guys, we are doing a very interesting video because I do get a lot of requests for this, especially over on my TikTok, but I thought for this type of video, it would be better in long form because there are quite a few things to go through. So to tell you guys, I am going to be going through every single romance trope and I'll be giving you one recommendation per trope. This is going to be a very, very, very big video. I bet you have lipstick on my teeth again. Every time! It wouldn't be a Belle video if I did not have lipstick on my teeth at the beginning of the video. So I scoured the internet this morning after I sort of like went through my own little records. If you guys have seen my monthly reading wrap-ups, you guys know that I do keep a reading journal, and every time I do journal a book, I usually put what the tropes are for each book. So what I did this morning is I went through and just like wrote down the ones that I already had in my book, and then I went on like TikTok and things like that to just make sure that I didn't miss any. Just a PSA, if I did miss any, please don't get mad at me. I am happy to make a part 2. There's just so many romance tropes, and if I did like every single specific one of them, I'd probably be here forever. That being said, I have a list of 67 romance tropes in front of me, and next to me here I've got 67 recommendations for you. So without further ado, let's get comfy, let's get cozy, and let's get right on into the video. Alrighty, so what I'm going to be doing for this, guys, is I'm going to be going in alphabetical order. I basically just like chucked all of the tropes into this like alphabetized list thing, and I got a list. So yeah, because like I said, it's gonna be a long video, let's just start from the top. So the first trope that we're going to talk about is academic rivals. So basically, academic rivals means that this book is going to be taking place most likely in a school or a university where the two main characters are most likely going to be competing over a position or a promotion. The recommendation that I have for academic rivals is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is actually one of my favorite books by Ali Hazelwood. I feel like it doesn't get enough hype. This is again one of her STEM romances. I believe that the FMC is a neurosurgeon. I'm pretty sure with this one here, she is working on this new project, and then all of her like equipment starts to go missing and things like that. And then she finds out that her little arch nemesis, little Levi over there, could potentially be the one behind it. So that's my recommendation for academic rivals. Next one is one of my new favorite tropes, and it is accidental pregnancy. Now, I know that this is not everybody's bread and butter. Now, let me explain the way I like this trope done. I'll just explain both ways that this trope is used as a plot device. Essentially, accidental pregnancy means where the female main character ends up getting pregnant without planning it. So it's not like she's in a relationship and she's planning to have a baby or things like that. There are two ways that this trope is done. The first way that it's done, and it's the way that I don't like it, is sometimes thrown into the back end of a book, say the last, 10 to 20% of a book, where it's used as a way to create maybe conflict between the main couple, or, as a last minute plot device. I don't like when accidental pregnancy is thrown in like that. The way I do like accidental pregnancy done is when the whole book is actually about that. If you read the back of a book and it says like a one night stand leads to an accidental pregnancy, I will usually love those books because it usually shows the main couple navigating this unplanned pregnancy throughout the entire book. So my recommendation for accidental pregnancy will always be Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is book number 4 in the Chestnut Spring series. This follows Winter and Theo. They do have a one night stand. They're a little bit of a rival enemy duo, these two. They have a one night stand, and Winter ends up checking a pregnancy test and realizes that she is pregnant. I absolutely love this. I always say to people who maybe don't like the accidental pregnancy trope, if you want something that will make you love it, this book will make you love it, seriously. Next up, we have age gap, which is another very common one and a very popular one. An age gap trope usually means that our main couple has quite a few years between their ages. This can be 5 years, this can be 10 years, this could be 15 years. It really depends. I personally love it, and the recommendation that I have, I decided to choose a very insane age gap, because if I'm gonna give you an age gap recommendation, I gotta give you the age gap recommendation. And it is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is basically about Pike and Jordan, and this is a relationship as well between her and her ex-boyfriend's dad, Daddy Pike. There is a 19-year age gap between these two, which, like I said, I know is not for everybody, but I just personally absolutely ate this up with a silver spoon. You will love this. Next up, we have arranged marriage, which is another strand that I like as well. An arranged marriage usually means that, let's say, one of the main characters' families have like arranged them to get married to somebody else. You know, it's not their choice to get married, let's say. And the one I'm going to show you guys that I recommend is always going to be Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I loved this book. This is Ali Hazelwood's first like paranormal romance, and I ate this up. This is between a werewolf and a vampire. Like I said, arranged marriage. Oh my goodness, you guys. The cover does look like this. This was just a special ARC copy that I got, but I love this. I read it in a day. Super addictive. You will love. Next, we have Best Friend's Brother. Does anybody else absolutely still bump Best Friend's Brother from Victorious? Because I do it all the time. The Best Friend's Brother trope is not very popular, I would say. It's usually where our main character ends up falling for her best friend's brother. So the one that I ended up picking for you guys is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and this is by Christina Lauren. This book does follow Josh and Hazel. They are two friends from college, and they end up, I believe they live together. They're sort of terrible at dating, so each of them try to set the other up on all of these dates to try and get them to succeed in love, and then I guess, you know, things sort of go from there. I'm not the biggest fan of Christina Lauren, but this one was a win for me. Next, we have a big one, and it is Billionaire Romance, which is such an incredibly popular genre and trope within the romance genre. Let's just say that. I've said genre about 3 times. So the billionaire trope essentially means that either our male main character or our female main character is extremely wealthy and they are a billionaire. So the one that I ended up picking is actually, of course, I had to pick from the queen of billionaire romances, and I went for King of Greed, and this is by Anna Huang. This is book 3 in the Kings of Sin series. This is also like a marriage on the rocks, which I loved as well. This is basically between Dominic and Alessandra, and it is just like, oh, such a good billionaire, such a good, like I said, marriage on the rocks you'll love. Next is one of my all-time favorite tropes. I'm probably going to say this a million times today, but it's definitely in my top 3, and it is bodyguard romance. I love this trope so much. This basically means that our male main character, most likely, or the female, is a bodyguard to the other protagonist in the novel. There is just something about a bodyguard romance that makes me feral, especially with the male main character. They can really be super stoic and hard. I just love bodyguard romances, and if you guys know me, you know the one that I'm going to hold up is going to be, and always will be, Twisted Games by Anna Huang. Funny, 2 Anna Huang books in a row. Twisted Games is a princess bodyguard trope, which means the female main character is a princess and the male main character is the bodyguard. This follows Reese and Bridget. Bridget is a modern day princess, and her whole life she's just thought that she's going to be second in line to the throne, until one day her brother decides to abdicate for love, and she has a few months to learn the ropes and become the queen. Before she does so, however, she wants to like go and tick off a little bucket list of things she wants to do while she still has her freedom. And who is the one that is there to help her other than her bodyguard, Reese, her very sexy ex-military man. Reese, I love this book. One of my absolute favorite books of all time. I think it's in my top 5 favorite books of all time. Please read this book. Up next we have Boss's Daughter, which again is sort of like sometimes a little bit forbidden under that little umbrella of that trope. Usually the male main character will be considering getting into a relationship with his boss's daughter. So the book that I have is Caught Up by Liz Tomford. This is book number 3 in the Windy City series. This follows Kai and Miller. Kai is a single dad. He's also the head player on the baseball team. I'm not a sports girly, okay? He's basically looking for a new babysitter for his little boy Max, and who does his boss put forward other than his daughter Miller, who is this very famous chef who's going through a little bit of a burnout period in her career right now, and she wants to just sort of take a break and do something different. Things sort of go from there. We've got that boss's daughter dynamic. Whilst we're on the branch of bosses, the next trope that I have is boss employee, which essentially means our main couple's dynamic is one of them is the boss and one of them is the employee. The one that I'm going to recommend for you guys is going to be The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in the Dreamland Australian Billionaire series, follows Rowan and Iris. So Rowan is the owner of Dreamland, which is essentially like a Disneyland. And it's sort of going through this phase where it's a little bit run down. He's just inherited it and he sort of wants to put it through a renovation. And Iris is one of the employees in this business. She one night drunkenly submits a proposal as to how she thinks the park should be renovated. And Rowan really likes her idea and he takes her on board and hires her to do so. And the dynamic sort of goes from there. Okay, next up we have brother's best friend, which is a very popular trope. I feel like a lot of romance books nowadays do have the brother's best friend. Pretty straightforward, as I said. It usually means that our female main character starts to take interest in her brother's best friend. The one that I have for this and that I always recommend for brother's best friend is Fix Her Up, and this is by Tessa Bailey. This is about a kids party entertainer and a baseball player. So I believe their names are Georgie and what's his name? Travis. There is like a lot of grumpy sunshine elements to this too. And of course, Travis is Georgie's brother's best friend. So super good. I love this book. Next up we have bully romance, which I actually haven't read too much of because it's not my particular favorite trope when it comes to a romance book. A bully romance insinuates that one of the main characters is bullying the other. This is usually in like a high school or a college setting. So the one that I have and the only bully romance that I have to recommend, it's Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This book follows Misha and Ren. They're basically these two students from different schools who get set up as pen pals one day when they're in the 5th grade or something, and they write to each other, but they never have actually like met up in person. They talk for many, many years, and then one day one of them sort of goes radio silence and the other doesn't really know what happens. That's all I'm going to tell you. Actually, I can't tell you too much because it's a spoiler. So do with that as you will. Next up we have childhood crush, which essentially means that one of our main characters had a crush on, you know, the other main character when they were quite young, but didn't really act on it. The recommendation that I have is Wild Love by Elsie Silver, which is the first book in the Rose Hill series. This follows Ford and Rosie. They were both childhood friends. Ford is a billionaire who has just opened up a brand new recording studio in this small town, and Rosie has just come back from the big city and starts to work for Ford. As I mentioned, they are childhood friends, and let's just say one of them has had a crush on the other for a very long time. Sort of branching off of that, we have childhood friends to lovers. The difference between childhood friends to lovers and just like a childhood crush usually means that these books have like a past present time frame. Sometimes you will see the main characters as children as well as in their present day, and you sort of know that I guess they started off as friends, they had a bit of a something as maybe they were teenagers, something was going on, and then they're now adults. And the book recommendation that I have for this trope is To Love Jason Thorne. This is by Ella Mays or Ella Maisie. So we have Jason and Olive. They are both, this is also brother's best friend too. They are childhood friends. She has always sort of had a thing for him, and then they sort of move away and they're separated when they're younger. Flash forward to the present day. Olive is a very successful writer and her book has just been optioned to become a film. And who walks in the door to audition for the main role? Her childhood sweetheart, her childhood crush, Jason, who is now a very famous actor. I love this. Not a lot of people know about it, and they definitely should. Wrapping up the childhood genre, we have one that I hadn't heard of until this year, and it is Childhood Rivals to Lovers, which is super cool. Same vein as this Childhood Friends to Lovers. This essentially means that the two of them did not get along when they were younger. There was always a bit of bickering and banter and whatnot, and now I guess they're older and they're forced to sort of either work together or, you know, into some sort of circumstance where they are having to be in the same space as each other. The book that I have is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, which is book 1 in the Lakefront Billionaires. I keep always getting this wrong. This follows Julian and Dahlia. As I mentioned, they are childhood rivals to lovers, which means the two of them did not get along as children. Julian is a billionaire and Dahlia is a very famous like renovation show host. Her and her partner, let's say, have a very successful and famous renovation show. They decide to come to Lake Wisteria to renovate a property, and through this, her and Julian are sort of forced to work together to renovate the house, and the book goes from there. Next up we have college, which is like a college romance. Pretty self-explanatory. It means that the book is going to be taking place in a college environment, a college setting. Recommendation I have for that is Collide by Balcabra. Every time I talk about this book, I say that it's Icebreaker's hotter older sister. This follows Aiden and Summer. Oh my god, I love this book. I've just like remembered how much that I love this book. Aiden is the captain of the hockey team and Summer is studying to be I believe it's like a sports psychologist or something. God, I'm good. And circumstances sort of lead them into this position where they are having to team up and work on one of Summer's papers together, and the story goes from there. This literally just like feels like the college experience in a book. Next we have a big one, and it was so hard to pick a book for this one, but we have Cowboy. Cowboy romances are literally taking over not only like the reading world, but the general world is like super obsessed with cowboys this year. I don't know what happened, but I'm not complaining. Cowboy romances usually mean that one of our main characters is a cowboy and it's set in like a small town setting. The one I have chosen is the one that I think everybody should just start out with before they dip their toe into any other cowboy romances, and it's gonna be Flawless by Elsie Silver. This was my introduction to small town cowboy romances, and when I tell you guys, it was like the best thing I've ever read. This follows Rhett and Summer. Rhett is a bad boy bull rider. He has just sort of had this really bad thing happen with a PR stunt, and his, PR agent's saying, you got to pull your head in because you're going to lose all of your sponsorships and your brand deals. So I'm sending out a babysitter to look after you. And lo and behold, we've got another boss's daughter because it is his PR agent's daughter, Summer, who is there to pull his head in and keep him in line. You will love. Next, another big boy, we have dark romance, which is another sort of like sub-genre, I would like to say. Some call it a trope, some call it a sub-genre. Dark romance essentially means that it's a romance book that has a lot of darker themes and a lot of darker topics are touched on. I will be going into a few of them later on in the video. So the one that I've picked is Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. Does It Hurt follows Enzo and Sawyer. Sawyer steals the identities of the men that she sleeps with, and she sort of travels all around the world. She's a bit of an identity thief. She comes to Australia and she ends up sleeping with this Italian sexy Italian man called Enzo Vital. She steals his identity, but he actually finds out about it. Basically, he runs into her and sort of plays dumb. He takes her out on a boat one day. There's a huge storm and the two of them get shipwrecked together. They end up on this strange and creepy island where there's a man who lives in this lighthouse who is super weird and is not who he says he is. This is so good, you guys, but please check your trigger warnings. That's one thing I'll say about dark romances, is they can potentially be very triggering. Next, we have emotional romances, which usually means you're going to cry your eyes out, and they are usually sold this way. So if you were to read the blurb of these books, they will usually tell you that something sad is going to take place. Basically, you're in for a good cry with an emotional romance. I think this is the one that I always recommend when people ask me for a sad book, but B is probably the book that I have cried the hardest at. It is A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. I cannot give you too much of the synopsis without like spoiling what this is about, but it's essentially about Rune and Poppy. They are two childhood friends who meet when Rune and his family move over to the US from Norway. They become next door neighbors, very quick friends, and then circumstances sort of force them apart. When they do come back together, both of them are very different people and they are both carrying new secrets. Next we have one of the most popular tropes, probably everybody's trope, and it is enemies to lovers. Now, I'm very funny when it comes to enemies to lovers in romance books because I truly don't feel like there is such thing as enemies to lovers in romance books. I feel like it's more of a thing in like fantasy and romantasy. Enemies to lovers, for those who do not know, means that our main couple start the book off despising each other. You know, they very much hate each other and do not like each other, and they slowly become lovers. The book that I have chosen is Scarred by Emily McIntyre, which is a dark romance. It's essentially a standalone series that is like dark reimaginings of our favorite fairy tales or like Disney movies, right? So this one is The Lion King. I know some people like to say it's Hamlet, but it's the same thing. This is a very, very, very good enemies to lovers. You've got Tristan and you have, I think it's like Sarah. It's set in like medieval times. So good. Ooh, next we have a fun one. We have ex-boyfriend's dad. I love this trope. This means that, you know, one of the characters is going to be getting it on and hooking up with the ex-boyfriend's dad. The one that I've got for you is Praise by Sarah Kate, which is the first book in the Salacious Players Club. So Charlie has just broken up with her deadbeat boyfriend and is looking for a job. And you know who ends up offering her a job is Emerson, her ex-boyfriend's dad, who is the owner of the Salacious Players Club, a very provocative adult club, and their relationship goes from there. It's so good, you guys. Oh my god, if you love a good spicy book, you love this. Next we have fake dating, one of my personal favorite tropes. I don't know what it is, you guys. As soon as I find out a book has fake dating, I'm in, I'm locked in, I'm not moving, I'm not getting up. Fake dating means that our main couple end up pretending to date in order for both of them to receive some sort of benefit, right? So they're not really dating, they're dating to achieve something or receive something. The recommendation that I have for you is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang, book 4 in the Twisted series. This book follows Stella and Christian. Stella is an up-and-coming social media personality and Christian is a very sexy billionaire, and he owns this apartment complex that Stella lives in, and basically Stella's sort of like trying to crack the 1 million followers, and her like manager sort of says, you know, if you had like a boyfriend, you would be so much more relatable and people would want to follow you. So she ends up speaking to Christian one night and the two of them agree to fake date in order for her to reach this goal, and it's so good. In that same strand we have fake engagement, same sort of deal, but obviously they're getting engaged slash potentially. Are you quite well? The recommendation I have is another green book. It is Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I'm just preparing you guys now. I've got pretty much every single book from the Chestnut Springs in this list because they are just that good, okay? Hopeless is book number 5 in this series. This follows Beau and Bailey. Beau is an ex-military man and Bailey works at this bar in this very small town. She's part of this family that sort of has a really bad name and a bad reputation. Her and Beau sort of get to talking one night and they're carrying on, and she's like, you know, you're so privileged, you know, you have the Eaton last name and anybody would do what you said. You know, if you had my last name, like, you know, you couldn't do anything in this town. And he says, okay, why don't we make a bet? Let's get engaged, you take my last name and see if people treat you differently. And the book goes from there. Next we have another one that I love, and look, this is usually in romantasy, and it is Fated Mates. I'm including this because romantasy sort of falls under romance. Fated Mates essentially means that they are like always destined to be together. It's like the universe created these two people to be together. It's like stronger than Soulmates in my opinion, and I truly feel like the only book that represents this is A Court of Mist and Fury. It's book number 2 in the ACOTAR series, the A Court of Wings. Nope, A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I hate the first book, so I don't talk about it, but A Court of Mist and Fury truly is the best depiction of fated mates and like soulmate-ism that you'll ever read in a book. Like my eyes are still wet, my DNA is in the pages. Absolutely stunning. This is the relationship. Like this is the relationship, you know what I'm saying? Next up we have Forbidden Romance, which I had so many good bangers for this one, but I thought I would like give you guys a bit of a prank one. So Forbidden Romance is pretty straightforward. I sort of touched on it earlier. It basically means where our like main dynamic is shunned upon. You know, it's pretty straightforward. I've decided that you guys should read Credence and listen to me now. I don't think this is the best book ever. I'm actually annoyed at this book very greatly. However, I think this is the truest form of a forbidden romance. And I think, seriously, hear me out here, I just think that it's a book that everybody needs to read. Like, I'm being so for real. It's a book that everybody needs to read once in their life. So this book follows, I've forgotten her name. It starts with a T. Tiernan. There we go. Tiernan's parents have tragically passed away. She's underage. She's just shy of turning 18, okay? She just doesn't have a legal guardian. So basically, she gets a phone call one day from her step-uncle Jake, who has no blood relation to her whatsoever. He is her dad's step-brother. No blood relation. Basically says, hey Tiernan, you don't have anywhere to live for the next few months until you turn 18, but if you would like, you are more than welcome to come and live on this ranch with myself and my 2 sons, who are your step-cousins, Noah and Caleb. Come live with us out in the middle of absolute nowhere. And basically, this is the most chaotic, closed in, snowed in, hoa, like Twilight, forbidden, taboo romance between this girl, her stepdad, and her step-cousins. No blood relation! But you need to read it. I'm being For real. Next up, we have forced proximity, which is another one that's very popular in books nowadays. A forced proximity trope essentially means that our two main characters are forced into a situation where they are, you know, having to spend a lot of time together, maybe living together, working together, things like that. That's what forced proximity means. And the one that I have for you is Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. This book follows Chloe and Warren. Both of them are trying to get legal custody of their respective siblings. However, they're both sort of struggling financially because they are young adults, one's in college and whatnot. So CPS devises this new plan where essentially they can team up and live together in the same house to share the financial load. So these two end up living together with their two siblings to share the load, and it is just so cute, so funny. I read this in a day. Like, I remember just jumping around. If you want a book that's just going to give you all the warmth and the butterflies, this one. Next up, we have found family, which I just love. The found family trope means that not only just our main characters, but sometimes the side characters come from all forms and walks of life to create this like found family. So it's not a family that you're born into, it could be a friendship family and whatnot. The book that I've chosen / the series that I've chosen is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I truly feel like there is no better friend group than this friendship group here. I feel like all of them found each other at a time that they truly need, and they just create this beautiful family together. Heartstopper is the friends to lovers story between Nick Nelson and Charlie Spring, and all of the beautiful friends that they have in their life, and it is such an incredible story, so please read it. Next up, we have Friends to Lovers, which I really love. Some people don't love Friends to Lovers, but I just think it's super cute. This just essentially means that our main characters could be meeting each other in the present sense, but they start out as friends and then become lovers. The book that I have, I don't have the physical, is funnily enough Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is another one that falls under the accidental pregnancy trope, but it's brought in at the beginning of the book, so it is done right. Our main couple here meet at a Halloween party. They have a one-night stand. The FMC ends up falling pregnant and the story goes from there. It is just so beautiful. Like, even when she finds out that she's pregnant, you know, they start off as friends and he wants to help her, and it's just so cute. Next up, we have Grumpy Sunshine, which is another very popular trope. Grumpy Sunshine is the one that I get like looks at a lot, and like even when I talk about it with my friends and family, they're like, what do you mean? Why are you, what is Grumpy Sunshine? Grumpy Sunshine refers to a male main character being super dark and gloomy, not very happy, pretty broody, and sunshine refers to usually the female main character who is full of life and very colorful and happy all the time. So you've got that opposite sort of dynamic. The book that I have for you guys is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. This follows Taylor and Miles. Taylor is a primary school teacher who hires a like holiday house in Cape Cod for her vacation and ends up finding a dead body in her house. She ends up finding a bounty hunter called Miles who sort of comes with her to try to figure out what's going on in her house / like where the body came from. And it turns into this really cute like summer murder mystery, but like super wholesome and giddy and spicy book. And it is just so good. Like, he is such a grump, can't stand anybody, and she's obviously this like happy-go-Larry primary school teacher, and it's just super cute. Next, we have Guy Falls First, which means that our male main character is the first one to fall for his partner. The one that I have is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. This is a college football romance, and I actually just bought the second one today. It's called Promise Me Not. I can't tell you too much about what this is about, but it does follow a group of friends who sort of spend their last night at this lovely summer house. They're about to start college. It's a little bit of a love triangle too, but when I tell you guys, this book is so good, I have to just be vague about it. But if you love Guy Falls First, you will love this. Next up, we have Love After Loss, which I actually haven't read too many of these. However, I read one last month that I absolutely love. Love After Loss means that one of our main characters has just lost either a partner or a spouse very recently, and it's sort of hard for them to trust again and want to look for love again or whatnot in the next relationship, which will be like the main focus of the book, right? So the book that I have for you guys is Morbidly Yours, and this is by Ivy Fairbanks. This is so good, you guys. This takes place in Galway in Ireland. This follows Callum and Lark. Lark has just moved over from the States to Ireland to start a new job. She does animations, so she's just got this new job at an animation studio, and she moves in next door to Callum, who owns like a funeral home. Lark unfortunately is escaping the US because her husband recently passed away away very, very suddenly and wants to start her life over there and start fresh. And it's got such heart, and I loved this book so much, so please read it. Next up we have Love Triangle, which I know is not everybody's cup of tea. For those who don't know, a love triangle is where our female main character, or maybe our male main character, will have two love interests at the same time, vying for their affections, right? So the book that I have chosen, or the series that I want you guys to look at, is the Infernal Devices trilogy. The first one is Clockwork Angel. This follows Tessa Gray. It is set in like a romantasy space, but it's set in like London in the 1800s or the 1700s, in a world where there are angels and demons and warlocks and all of these amazing things. There's this girl called Tessa who finds herself sort of thrust to the world of these shadow hunters and warlocks, and she meets Jem Carstairs and William Herondale, and yep, a lovely little love triangle forms. It's funny because it's a love triangle where I actually love all three of them. So yeah. One of my absolute favorite tropes of all time, this is probably my second favorite trope of all time, is marriage of convenience. I don't know what it is, you guys. Whenever a book has a marriage of convenience, I go absolutely feral. Marriage of convenience is a little bit further than a fake engagement or fake dating. A marriage of convenience means that our main couple or main characters have decided to get married in order for both of them to sort of benefit from it, right? So the book that I have chosen, and I think it's the best marriage of convenience ever, Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. Why can't I hold this book? This is book 2 in the Dreamland Billionaires. So this follows Iris and Declan. I didn't explain the premise of the Dreamland Billionaires earlier, but it's essentially about these three brothers who are left an inheritance by their grandfather. However, in order to unlock the inheritance, they actually have to do something. It's written in the will. So for Declan, because he's known that he's never going to want to do this, he has to settle down and have an heir in order to get his portion of the inheritance. So he's trying to find a wife, and he's really struggling. No one really wants to marry him. But you know who ends up stepping up is his assistant Iris, and they get married, and it is just so... I want to read this book again, you guys. You know, like Walking Like a Dog? That's what this is. Next up we have the memory loss trope, or like amnesia. This usually means that either at the middle to end of the book, one of the main characters will like lose their memory, or you find out that like in the past they lost some of their memory. It can really depend. So the only one that I could think of that wasn't like a spoiler, Twisted Love by Anna Huang, which is book number 1. Now, this is not my favorite book in the Twisted series, but I still love it. And I know some people think it's a silly jokey book, and it kind of is, but you all can't deny that it wasn't a book that started your love for reading if you have read it. If anybody saw or follows me on Instagram, you guys would have seen the other day I very, very graciously received a PR package for Anna Huang's new book, and at that time I was wearing a shirt from this book, and it says I survived Alex Volkov singing, and it was very funny. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who loved on the shirt. One of my best friends, Bridie, actually made that for me for either my birthday or Christmas one year. I love you, Bridie, thank you. Anyways, Twisted Love is about Alex and Ava. It is also a brother's best friend. He's a billionaire as well. Basically, it's about their sort of relationship, and you should just read it. Next, another personal fave of mine is No Third Act Breakup. I cannot stand when a book throws in the third act breakup. It essentially means that the book is going so well, our couple is happy, and in the last third of the book, the author decides to break the couple up just to create a bit of drama instead of them talking through their problems, right? So when I read a book that doesn't have the third act breakup and actually has healthy communication, instant 5 stars. I know a lot of people are sick of seeing this book, but it's the first book that I read that had the no third act breakup, and it set the standard for the no third act breakup and healthy communication. And I just want to show off my new special edition. It's Icebreaker by Hannah Grice. Look how pretty it is, guys. The beautiful pink sprayed edges. This is a college sports romance. We've got an ice hockey player and a figure skater. We've got a reverse Grumpy Sunshine dynamic, which I will talk about in a little bit as well. Essentially, Anastasia's partner, her figure skater partner, ends up getting like injured and he can't compete with her, and basically the captain of the hockey team, Nate Hawkins, decides to stand up and sort of help her compete. The next trope is the one bed trope, which everybody just loves a one bed trope. The one bed trope essentially means at some point throughout the book our main couple is going to be sharing a bed, and the book that I have is People We Meet on Vacation. This is the UK cover. I can't stand that it has a title change. It's called You and Me on Vacation, but People We Meet on Vacation, so much better. This is also becoming a film. This follows Alex and Poppy, and essentially the two of them go on these little like retreats and holidays together, because I believe it's Poppy is like she like travels as her job. It's like to be a reviewer in like a destination. What is it called? But essentially they always go on vacation together when one of them has a job, and they go every year, and it's basically like a past present. You get to see them go on all of these different vacations together until there's one point where you get to the story and you realize they are no longer talking to each other, and you have to like figure out why. And obviously when you're traveling together, you're going to share a bed at one point. So next, one night stand. Love this trope. It's so good. It means our main couple's going to have a one night stand, whether that be at the beginning of the book or at the end of the book, in the middle of the book. Yeah, and the book that I have is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is my favorite book by Hannah Grace. It follows Russ and Aurora. We start on the last night of college before summer break, and we're at a frat party and the two of them meet. They hit it off and they have a one night stand. However, at the end of the one night stand, they don't really like get each other's details, and it sort of ends a bit awkwardly. So imagine their shock and horror when they rock up to their summer camp like job where they're being camp counselors for the summer. They both rock up at the same camp and realize they're stuck there together for the entire summer, and fraternization is not allowed between the camp counselors. This is such fun summer vibes. Oh my god, golden retriever boyfriend. Yeah, you'll love. Oh yeah. Next up we have One of Us is Famous. This trope here means that one half of our main couple is going to be famous. Whether they be a singer, a dancer, a musician, a cowboy, a sports player. The book I'm going to show you guys has not released yet. It comes out this Tuesday on the 22nd of October, and I just talked about the fact that I just got it a couple of days ago. I also read this book in a day, so I just need to tell you guys that it's absolutely incredible. And it is The Striker by Anna Huang. I need you guys to read this book like I need air to breathe. I'm being so for real. This follows Asher and Scarlett. Asher is a football player, which means he's a soccer player, and our FMC Scarlett is a ex-prima ballerina, and it is just so good. Basically, Asher has to spend some time at the dance studio that Scarlett teaches at for training over his like off season, and it's also like again another brother's best friend, brother's rival, sorry. This is a brother's rival book, and it is just phenomenal. As I said to you guys, I read this in a day. This is a almost 600 page book. So good. Please get your hands on it on the 22nd of October, because I truly think Anna has just like found her new niche in the sports romance genre. You'll love. Next up we have Past Present. So I sort of touched on this a little bit earlier. When we have the past present trope, it means that within the book we are seeing the present day couple, and we are also seeing clips from their past. The book that I have chosen is my favorite past present, and it is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This book follows Clementine. She's just recently inherited an apartment from her late aunt who's just passed on, and her aunt always said that this apartment has like magical powers, and Clementine said like, girl, I don't believe you, okay? Until one day Clementine wakes up and she sees a very strange man standing in her kitchen, and he is from 7 years in the past. Oh, it's so good, you guys, it's so good. Next we have a priest romance, and that basically means that it's usually the male main character. Sometimes, I mean, you can't really have a female priest. You can have like a nun, right? But usually we have like the male main character is a priest, which makes it a little forbidden, a little bit taboo. And the recommendation I have for you guys is Crossed by Emily McIntyre. This is another one from the Never After series, and this is a Hunchback of Notre Dame retelling. So you've got Cade and you've got Esmeralda. Nope, Amaya. Esmeralda's from the actual movie. We've got Cade, who's obviously our priest, and Amaya is a spicy dancer, and super good, a little bit dark and mysterious. Very, 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 very fun. Next up we have Regency romance, which you guys know I absolutely love. I'll be like completely real and honest with you guys. I have not read a variety of Regency authors. I've just read like a lot by one particular author, so take that as you will. I love Regency romance so much. It's usually like, you know, historical romance could be as well. It's obviously set in our lovely Regency era, and there's just something about a Regency romance. I think it's like the etiquette of it all, and like the balls and the gowns, and oh, I just love it. The book that I'm going to show you is probably not the one you guys think I'm going to show you, but I'm saving that for another trope. An Offer from a Gentleman, which is Benedict's story from Bridgerton. So if you guys know me, you know I love Bridgerton a lot. And other than another book that I'm going to talk about in a little while, this is probably my second favorite book in that series. It follows Benedict Bridgerton, who is our second eldest brother. This is also like a Cinderella retelling or esque retelling. And if you're up to date with Bridgerton, you know that the next season coming is going to be an adaptation of this book here. I can't wait to see it, and I just love it. If you guys love Benedict in the show, I'm sure you will love the book. And if you haven't read any Regency yet, just pick it up. You can read them out of order because I did. The next trope we have is the renovation trope, and this essentially means that throughout the book, or at some point in the book, our main characters are going to be working on a renovation project together. And I found this year as well that I absolutely love this trope. I don't know what it is. I just think it's like super fun to have it as a plot device. Recommendation I have for you is Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This is another small town cowboy country romance. It's part of the Rebel Blue Ranch series. It's book number 2. Guys, can I just, I'm gonna say it again. I have read so many cowboy books this year, and when I tell you, I opened the book and it says the guy's name is Weston Wesley. I'm going, what's going on? I'm sorry. Anyways, this follows Wes and Ada. Wes lives on a farm. Ada is this out-of-town renovation girly interior designer who comes to this small town one night to work on a new project. She sort of goes into this bar on her first night in because she's hungry and she wants something to eat. She runs into and has a cheeky kiss with this very cute cowboy. Doesn't get his number or anything. The next day when she rocks up to start work on her project, she realizes that the cowboy she smooched is her new boss, and the book goes from there. Next we have the retelling trope, and this essentially means that I've sort of spoken about a few of these already. A retelling is essentially where a book is inspired by or is a retelling of, you know, a story that's already been written. So usually these are fairy tales or films. So the one that I'm going to show you guys is my favorite retelling, and it is Twisted by Emily McIntyre, which is an Aladdin retelling, and it's so good. This is also like sort of forced marriage as well, mafia, really dark. It is a dark romance, and you will love it if you love Aladdin and you want to read it as an adult, or yeah, you catch my drift. It was just way too hot in that jumper. I was trying to be cute, but you know, it's fine. Next we have Reverse Grumpy Sunshine, which I was talking about Grumpy Sunshine earlier. This is a switch in the dynamic. So usually it's, like I said, grumpy boy, happy girl. We're switching. So we've got a golden retriever boy and we have a black cat girl. This is my favorite version of the Grumpy Sunshine. I love a reverse Grumpy Sunshine. I just think maybe because that's me. Like, I feel like in my relationships, I'm usually the grump. So that's why I like it. Anyway, the recommendation I have for you guys is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This is an oldie but a goodie. This is sort of like another like retelling. It's a Pretty Woman inspired book, let's say that. So Stella is a mathematician, right? She's reaching 30, or I think she is 30. Yeah, she's 30. And basically my door's open! Ow, my toe. Guys, can I tell you the funniest story? I was in the bathroom a couple of months ago, right? And like I had forgotten to put like a mat or a floor, like a towel down when I got out of the shower. So let's just say there was a lot of like water on the floor. I was dancing around my bathroom trying to do ballet, let's say that, to the orchestral version of I Will Always Love You from the hit television show Queen Charlotte. And I was just ballerina dancing around to that. And I was holding like a glass of water. Anyway, I slipped and death dropped so well. It was one of those times I wish I had like a hidden camera. Like I wish I had a hidden camera watching me, right? I slid and death dropped so well that I definitely think I fractured my toe. And I know this because I still feel the pain in my big toe to this day. And that's just what happened. So you're welcome for that story. Anyways, basically, Stella has Asperger's and she has never sort of been in a serious relationship where she has felt comfortable enough to pop a cherry, let's just say that. So she decides to hire Michael, who is a male escort, and she sort of wants him to teach her about spicy times, and the book goes from there. Next, we have a bit of a sad one, and we have Right Person, Not Enough Time, which means that this couple is perfect for each other, but they do not get enough time with each other as they should have been. The recommendation I always give for this is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thau. This is a young adult, very emotional read. This follows Julie and Sam. Basically, the book opens where Sam tragically passes away very suddenly, and Julie is in this state where obviously she's going through a lot of grief. Anyway, she has started this habit where she's calling Sam's voicemail just to hear his voice. And she does this so often, and one day he basically picks up the phone. And it plays on that premise of like, what would you do if you had the chance to say goodbye to someone you weren't able to? In that same strain, we have Right Person, Wrong Time, which means nothing tragic, but it means that this particular pairing or this particular couple just keep missing each other, or they would have worked out if the timing was right, but they just weren't. A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. Our main couple, basically, it like shows them from their childhood all the way through to like where they are now. Again, that past present time frame, and it's just them like over and over and over and over again being in that right person, will they, won't they, right time. It's beautiful, and it is a little bit of an emotional one as well. Up next we have Rivals to Lovers, which is the romance equivalent to me of Enemies to Lovers. My favorite Rivals to Lovers is my second favorite book of all time. It is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. For those who haven't heard of this, it does follow the Rivals to Lovers relationship between the first son of the United States and the Prince of Wales. This book is hilarious. On the back, it literally says, there's like a quote from Entertainment Weekly. It says, this book feels like fireworks in the sky and glitter in your hair. Like, that's how this book feels. And then we have Roommates. Oh my God, they were roommates. Pretty straightforward. Means our main couple is rooming together, or circumstances force them into a predicament where they're sharing a space. This is one of my favorite books ever. We have The Right Move by Liz Tomford. So this is part of the Windy City series, and this follows Ryan and Indy. So Ryan is a very famous basketball player, and Indy is a flight attendant. And basically, Indy is best friends with Ryan's sister, Stevie, and Indy's in a bit of a predicament at the moment where her and her fiance have split up and she needs somewhere to live. So Stevie says to her brother, hey, can Indy live with you? She's got nowhere to go and you really aren't at your apartment anyways because you're traveling so much. Can she live with you? And he's like, Stevie, like, I don't want to do that. Like, you know, I don't like anyone in my space. I'm the biggest grump around. But anyway, he ends up caving because he loves his twin sister, and Indy and Ryan end up moving in together. Story goes from there. We do also get fake dating, and this book is incredible, you guys. Next up, we have royalty, which essentially means that we're either in a royal time frame or we've got royal main characters, or someone's a royal family member. My favorite royal romance is going to be Queen Charlotte, which is again part of the Bridgerton universe. Now hear me out. This book never likes the camera. If you have seen the Queen Charlotte show on Netflix, please read the book because it's so much more elaborate, and I cried even harder. It basically follows a reimagined version of Queen Charlotte and King George. Queen Charlotte goes back into how they met. It is an arranged marriage as well, obviously, and it's just so gorgeous and heartbreaking, and like some of the quotes in there, it's like earth-shattering love. Next up, we have Runaway Bride, which I actually haven't read too many of, but essentially this means that our female main character either starts out the book running away from her wedding, or, you know, it happens halfway through. It sort of depends on the book. So the book that I have is Powerless by Elsie Silver, book number 3 in the Chestnut Spring series. This follows Jasper and Sloane. Jasper is a famous ice hockey player and Sloane is his childhood best friend. So the book opens on her wedding day and she says, I need to get the heck out of here. I don't want to do this. Let's go on a road trip. Like, get the heck out of here and live life. And it's very, very sweet. If you also love childhood friends to lovers, as I said, you'll love this. Jasper, you know what you said, and I have taken my ring off. Next one we have is Second Chance, which is another very popular one online. A second chance romance means that our main couple has either tried to date in the past, or maybe they were married and they've split up. It really depends on the circumstances. And when the book starts, we see them trying again, or circumstances put them together in a position where they are trying their relationship for a second time. The book that I have is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book follows Emma and Jesse. They are high school sweethearts who end up getting married until one day Jesse is in a very tragic plane accident and he's presumed dead. Emma is sort of in this grief period where she doesn't know what happened to Jesse. Eventually she does sort of start to move on with her life, and she ends up meeting Sam, who is a childhood friend of theirs, and she ends up falling in love with him, until one day she gets a phone call from Jesse and she says he's actually been alive this entire time and he's coming back for her. He's just been like stranded on an island and he's coming back for her. So it follows the choice of one of the most incredibly difficult choices a person would ever have to make between the love of your life or your new love. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Next up we have Serial Killer, which falls under that dark romance subgenre I was telling you guys about. One of our main characters is a serial killer. Not saying that it's good to be a serial killer, but it's fiction, right? At the end of the day, it's fiction, babes. I've got the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey. This is actually a work of art. I'm being so serious. This book follows Lana Myers. She's a serial killer who falls in love with the FBI agent who is working on her case. And if that's not enough to draw you in, you will support her in her doings when you find out why she's doing what she's doing. And then we have She Fell First, but He Fell Harder. And this is one of my favorite tropes ever. Our female main character has obviously loved the male main character for a very long time, but when he finally falls for her, he's on his knees. And there's no other book, there's no other man that matches the criteria than Colin My Wife Bridgerton. This man tripped, slipped, and fell into a hole that he was never going to get up from because that's his wife. You know what I mean? Basically, this is like childhood friends to lovers, best friend's brother as well, secret identity. Oh my God. When I tell you she's been obsessed with him for years, and when he finally wakes up and sees the light, he's a goner. It's like if this was set in modern times, he would have a t-shirt that says like, please return to my wife, and like a picture of her face on it. That's what I mean by she fell first, but he fell harder. You know what I'm saying? You catch my drift. Next we have Single Dad, which arguably is my favorite trope of all time. Single dad is pretty much where the MMC is a single dad. Straightforward. There's a plane outside my house. The book that I have is my newest favorite single dad book, and it is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This follows West and Skylar. West is a single dad. He's got 2 beautiful kids, and Skylar is our female main character. She is a country bumpkin, country star, who's basically trying to escape the hold that her parents have over her music career. She ends up coming out to Rose Hill to record some new music that is entirely her own and like feels like her own voice. And then her and West end up meeting in this very interesting meet cute that involves a bear, and the story goes from there. She was a poet and she didn't even know it. Next we have Single Dad Ex Nanny. Single Dad and the Nanny. This is a delicious trope. Basically, we have a single dad who's requiring the assistance of a nanny. Heartless by Elsie Silver is the single dad nanny book. This follows Cade and Willa. Cade is a grumpy single dad to his little boy Luke, and he's needing a babysitter over the summer so that he can get some work done. He ends up hiring Willa, who is his brother's fiance's best friend. She is a larger-than-life, crazy, red-headed lady, and I just love her more than anything. This story is just stunning, okay, you guys? Rounding off our single parents, we have single mother. Single parent, self-explanatory. We've got a single mom. The book that I have for you is Final Offer. We've gone through the entire Dreamland Billionaires trilogy. This one here follows Alana and Cal. Alana is our single mum. She is the single mum to Cami. And Cal is, this is another like childhood friends to lovers, second chance romance as well. Cal is our third and final brother. His task is that he has to flip this childhood home that he has in Lake Wisteria. And the book goes from there. Up next is Slowburn, which I love. I'm a big fan of a slow burn. A slow burn means that they really, really drag out the couple like finally getting together, even like holding hands or kissing. I think that the book I'm about to show you is the slowest slow burn that I've ever read. I'm being so for real when I say that I waited to the last 10 pages for them to bang. It's The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. This is a sports romance, and we do have a boss-employee type dynamic and a marriage of convenience. This follows Vanessa and Aiden. Aiden is the Wall of Winnipeg. He is a very famous football player who plays for the US. He does originally come from Canada, which means he's not an American citizen. And then we have Vanessa, who is his assistant. Basically, Aiden needs a favor from Vanessa. They do not like each other. She's worked for him for many, many years, and he's just a grumpy grump. So she doesn't think that he likes her, and vice versa, till one day he comes groveling to her and he sort of propositions her and says, hey, I know you hate me, but I need you to marry me. And that's all I'm gonna say. Next up, we have Small Town. Small Town means that our story is going to be taking place in a very rural area, not many people around. Super fun, comfy, cozy books are usually our small towns. And the book that I have for you guys is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Bree has just moved to this small town. She's trying to escape something that sort of happened in her life. She needs a change. She ends up moving to this small town, and she sort of sees and meets this very quiet man called Archer, who is not very liked by the town, and she's sort of wondering why that is. And we start to realize that he doesn't actually speak. This is a beautiful book, you guys. I cried so hard. Next up, we have Soulmates. Soulmates is a lovely trope as well. Usually, I would say this is more prominent in your romanticises. A soulmates book to me is like we would find each other. It's like I would find you in every lifetime. And that's what a soulmate is. Anyway, the book that I have is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This ruined my life in the most serious way. This follows Patroclus and... What? Oh my God. Achilles and Patroclus. Okay. It spans their relationship over 30 years. I read this book and I thought it was the slowest of slow burn, boring as heck. Like, what the hell are we talking about? When you get to the end of this book, you realize the definition of soulmates. And like, I cried and stared at walls. Next, we have sports romances, which I have talked about quite a few sports romances today. Sports means that we've got a baseball player, a basketball player, a hockey player, a soccer player, Teddy. Can you believe we got a soccer player? Yeah, I know, little man. The one I thought I would recommend is Mile High by Liz Tomford. This is the first book in the Windy City series. I'm pretty sure I've talked about all of them, maybe except for one, which I'm about to. Again, we've got an ice hockey player and we've got a flight attendant. This is also like a sort of rivals, enemies to lovers. Stevie is a flight attendant on the plane for the Chicago hockey team, right? And she does not get along with Evan Zanders, who is the cocky, you know, ice hockey team captain, I believe. He's got the biggest ego in the world and Stevie just does not fall for it. She does not take it. And it's delicious. It's so good, you guys. This whole series, please read it. Not enough people know about it and it's just delicious. The Stalker trope, which I love. Again, another dark romance trope. Not a lot of people love it. It's not for everyone. I can respect that. But essentially, we've got a stalker in our midst. A stalker that usually we end up falling in love with, not only the FMC, but the reader. And I've got the Stalker romance. Okay, we've got the Stalker romance, which is the cat and mouse duet, Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline. We basically got our up-and-coming writer, Adeline, who inherits this house from her late grandmother. It's like a manor. She ends up finding like a hole in a wall where there's a diary. Within this diary, we find out that her great-grandmother, Gigi, was actually being stalked, but it's a stalker that she ended up falling in love with. And Adeline then starts to realize that she's caught the attention of someone who is stalking her, Zaid Meadows. Next up we have Taboo, which I was touching on again a little bit earlier. My camera died, so I had to quickly charge it. A taboo romance is essentially there's something that's a little bit forbidden, a little bit like out there that not everybody would love, hence why it's called taboo. So the recommendation I have for you guys is For the Fans by Niley Kay. This is my like favorite taboo book that I've read this year. Probably my favorite taboo book that I've read ever. This follows Kai and Avi, and this is a stepbrother romance. As I mentioned before, completely no blood relation to these guys whatsoever, but basically they become stepbrothers just before they head off to college, so they haven't really known each other their whole lives either. And when they get to college, they're sort of doing their separate things, they don't really like each other, but their parents' business sort of like falls through and they're unable to pay for their college tuition. So Avi actually decides that there's a certain adult website that you can sign up to and make some videos on that will give you some cashola, some money. And basically Kai and Avi start doing those videos together. And that's the book. And it's so good. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Next up, we have Unrequited Love, which is one that I honestly haven't read too much of. But Unrequited Love is where either the male main character or the female main character has been secretly in love with the other for a very, very long time, and they feel as though it's unrequited and that they do not love them back. I just have an oldie but a goodie, The Hunger Games, and I just always think of my boy Peter. He is like, honestly, it's unrequited love, and he will love her regardless. And I think there's times where he knows that she doesn't love him, he will just always love her, you know? Like, that's all. Okay, don't come for me. That's all I could think of, guys. Next we have A Drunk Marriage or Waking Up in Vegas Married. I love this trope. I eat it up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is basically the trope where we're going to Vegas and too many drinks are had and we end up getting married. And the book that I have for you guys is Play Along by Liz Tomford. It follows Isaiah and Kennedy. So Isaiah is the head player on a baseball team and Kennedy is the athletic trainer. Isaiah has always had a thing for Kennedy, but up until recently Kennedy has been engaged and she's not really been playing into his flirtation. The book opens on a team bonding trip to Vegas before the boys start their baseball season, and they're out at a bar and Isaiah runs into Kennedy and he goes, "What are you doing here? Like, you're obviously not part of this trip. Like, this is so strange." And she says, "Yeah, I'm actually out on a bachelorette weekend with my stepsister who is currently engaged to the man that I used to be engaged to." So it's a super weird situation. And Isaiah goes, "Okay, you know what? Do you want to get out of here? Like, this just seems like a weird situation. I think you should clear your head." She's like, "I would love to, Isaiah." They then proceed to have way, way, way too many drinks. They end up stumbling into a chapel and they get hitched. Then we have Who Did This to You, which is one of my faves. This is very popular in fantasy usually, but obviously we've got like, and I have chosen a fantasy because I think it's the best like depiction of who did this to you. We've obviously got like a male character who is, you know, something's happened to the female main character and he sort of is going, "Who did this to you? I'm going to burn the world down." The recommendation that I have for you is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is by Carissa Broadbent. This is a romantasy. It's heavy on the romance element. It's so good. This is like The Hunger Games but with vampires, but it is just so much more than that. You guys will eat this up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Next up we have Why Choose, which is a very interesting one. A Why Choose is essentially where we don't just have two people in a couple. Sometimes we can have three people in a couple. We can have four people. I I don't even know if you'd call it a couple in a romantic relationship. Let's say that you can have 4 or 5. It's basically where it's not a love triangle where we're trying to pick between one or the other, or, you know, we've got 3 people and we end up choosing one. We end up choosing all. My why choose recommendation is 3 Swedish Mountain Men. This is by Lily Gold. I read this on my Kindle, so I don't have the physical. This is about this girl who, like, her truck breaks down while she's holidaying in Sweden, and she meets these 3 mountain men. They take her back to their place and things get exciting and super fun. We've got workplace. So a workplace relationship is essentially, yeah, where you've got 2 people who work at the same place and they start a relationship. My workplace recommendation is an oldie but a goodie, and it is The Spanish Love Deception. This follows Aaron and Lena. They both work at the same company, and then basically Lena actually needs a date to her sister's wedding in Spain, and she's lied to her parents and told them that she has a boyfriend. So she ends up talking to Aaron. They don't really get along, but she says, hey, would you do me a favor and would you come to Spain with me and be my fake boyfriend? And it goes from there. And last but certainly not least, workplace rivals. It's our final trope. This is, again, just branching off of the workplace. It's either we have that situation like we had with the academic rivals, but it's in a workplace setting where maybe they are vying for the same position, or they just do not like each other and they can't stand the fact that they work together. This one is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This follows Lucy and Josh. They are both up for the same promotion within their work firm. I just loved it. And like, as someone who used to work in an office, I just ate it up, and yeah, so good. Alrighty, you guys, I can't believe we made it to the end. Thank you guys so much for sticking through to the end of the video. That was all 67 tropes, I think it was. What are your favorite romance tropes? Slash, do you have any recommendations for the ones that I mentioned today and, you know, they weren't the books that I showed you? Because I would love to add them to my TBR. As always, you guys, if you aren't already, you are more than welcome to follow me on TikTok and on Instagram. I will leave my handles on the screen here. And if you aren't already, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and make sure you are hitting that notification bell. That way you're notified every time a brand new video goes up. Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a lovely day or a lovely night, and I will see you all next time. Bye.